on the outskirts of town, the industrial zone, sometime earlier this spring. He jerks out of the car. One hands his big bag and heads up to the Itness studio. Today it's Power and Poe. Yes, he is connected to his body. In fact, it's like he's turned into the back of his neck, all of him. He's a body person, not a Kopfmensch. So is she and he. They all are. Getting out of their vehicles, connecting to their legs again for a revisit to the Itness studio. And then there is the guy watching them. He hears his breath, smells the McDonald's next to the glass containers. He even smells their metal. They go to this particular salon because it doesn't smell at all. Not a trace of organic matter in the air conditioning. Skin tastes like live metal when it sweats by the drink. Enough voltage to connect. And when he is pumped and out of there, he avoids anyone who sits. That says Kopfmensch. That is, unless they are drinking brake fluid or electrolytic beer. Face it. Face the machine. The mechanical machine. The mechanical republic. The Eve hypothesis is another thing here and now. It's not about mitochondria. It's about Mercedes-Benz. Take 8. Later that day, Cologne, 4th of May. The second fold in my story behind Øtherlands begins on June 1st, 1993, in the morning, when Felix Huber and I tossed a laptop and a digital camera into the back of a 64 Cadet and drove east to the Black Sea. Our images and text traveled the other way, back along the telephone wires we could see planted by the roadside, back to somewhere at the biannual in Venice. And don't ask me where, I was never there. I think when the show opened, we had just toured the Iron Door hydroelectric plant and museum under a bridge linking Serbia with Romania. Black Sea Diary was about timelines, tourist bubbles, and transmission errors, all alive and well along the equator. Take 9, late at night in my room, Karlsruhe, 19th of August. The net artist has to, right off the bat, confront the formal characteristics of a network. Let me see, what are they? A negotiated environment, yes. A flattened social hierarchy. Little or no claim to authorship or authority. No center, no linearity, no censor, fake space, other selves, less attention paid to the art object and more attention paid to the object of the art, namely the recipient. And a net is still more holes than anything else. So beware, it's easy to fall through. Take it from me. Misinterpretations, miscommunications, misconnections are all a part of it. No excuses. In homeopathic doses, they can cure a lot of online woes. It helps to think of Beuys's maxim, denken gleich form. It says the same thing McLuhan preached without any pop attitude. I find that helpful in developing net strategies. Net art, if art is the appropriate term at all, just ask Udo or Florian about it. It's about putting up content, at least for me. For the net artist, less interested in the mannerisms of a techno-design aesthetic and more concerned with bare, naked content, great resistance is ready to pounce. You see, the art world is out of practice as far as content is concerned. After decades of art making, much of which was oblivious to content, outside of its own perpetual aesthetic codes, content appears to be a risk. Perhaps it is this gambit that underpins the discourse surrounding Documenta X. I hope so. Anyway, the gamble that the net artist must take is to put content back into art. The danger for the art world is that putting content back into art puts art back into the world and out of the closed loop of privileged aesthetic discourse. I guess I just lost a few friends. Take 10, still later, Cologne, 4th of May. The saga of the second fold behind Øtherlands continues in 1995 when Felix and I did another travel, this time to the Arctic Circle. Arctic Circle was a double travel. On the one hand, up along lost highways in Canada, along and over the Arctic Circle, through one of the planet's last deep wildernesses. On the other hand, we uploaded fictional performances and real information, or was it the other way around, up onto the crowded infobot, building homepages on a server called The Thing in New York. Virtual co-travelers tagged along. So did a couple of hitchhikers, turning what began in the vein of 70s banality into the likes of a 90s Lynchian melodrama. Arctic Circle was an investigation into two types of loneliness. One, lost in a vast natural space, a space where one feels no longer welcome, for good reason perhaps. And two, sitting in front of a computer screen, trying to connect to the equally vast cyberspaces behind it. Living, performing, and videotaping, only to sit in the van at the end of the day to see it all go by again and again on the screen was quite something. Somehow, the virtual travel took over, and we began to live for the reruns on the screen. Everything we did after 2 weeks on the road was for that little screen. There was no more out the window. Everything we did anticipated its life on the screen. We were like fiction. Everything was fiction, no matter how real it really was. We dragged this observation on the nature of net art content into Øtherlands. Take 11, Cathay Pacific Flight 289, Hong Kong, Frankfurt. According to the digital map beamed on the big screen on board, we're heading north of the plateau of Tibet. 16th of August. Øtherlands is really hard to describe. There are no precedents. It's a game. It's a movie. It's a news group. It's lo-fi video. It's network art. When George Lucas was asked about interactive movie making, he said, impossible. It can't work. The psychologies are too different. He said, that would be like reading a book and playing ball with his son at the same time. Or maybe it's like swimming and flying at the same time. I think they call that diving. Øtherlands is something you have to dive into to make it work for you. Take 12, Documenta X, late afternoon, 22nd of August. I've changed my ending. Actually, I just cut it off. Gone. Instead, I'd rather provoke a discussion about net politics. I won't rap on about what the equator is, but what it needs. The equator needs a public policy that guarantees a human right, the right to online literacy. We don't have to pay private tutors to teach our children how to read. Net democracy, a non-centralist, self-regulating democracy, a global society, can only evolve should the hard line between those with the power to navigate, the means to connect, and those without is softened. That is my wish. The equator needs more critique from within.